day. So my guest, let's go ahead and bring the guest on. Let's see. Marilyn, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. How are you?
Good. How are you tonight,
I
Michael?
I'm doing fine. If I can get a little better organized, I'll be doing all right. so so
Yeah, I
listen.
think we all can relate to that one.
Oh yeah. Well, listen. Welcome aboard. I thank you for taking time out to be with me tonight.
Oh, that's fine. You're welcome. I'm glad to spend some time with you, and thank you for taking time to hang with me as well.
Oh, absolutely. So I thought we'd start with a little bit of how did you get going in this line of study? What got you rolling on this whole out of body travel thing?
Well, it started when I was very young. I had a vision when I was about 9 years old where the
Mm-hmm.
clouds parted and I saw a marble staircase that was leading from earth to heaven. It was one of those really, really mind numbing experiences. It was just beautiful. And I was shown quite a few things in that experience. And one of those was that there would be a purpose for me later in life and that this gift would return to me. And indeed, it did so when I was 22,
Ooh.
where I began having spontaneous out of body experiences. And at that time, I started then journaling about those experiences as I was having them. And the rest is history, I guess. It was about 34 years ago. And so I've been, it began very simply, with the basic experiences that people are familiar with. But over the decades, these experiences progress into much deeper experiences into the mysteries of the universe. You end up traveling into multidimensional realities. You travel through many different corridors. You travel forward and backwards through time.
Ooh.
You meet with the prophets, saints, mystics, and sages from throughout history. You're given specific instruction on your own path in life, but also on, understanding important mysteries that will help you to spiritually progress. It's a very, 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 very fruitful gift.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So now these out of body experiences that you had, was this something that you were able to control or they just happened? I mean, they were just I mean, did you eventually get to control them? Kind of take me through it a little bit. How did it work? How the whole process take place?
Well, the first experiences, and the one that I had at the age of 9 was completely spontaneous, as well as what began happening in the early 20s. They were spontaneous experiences. Over time, you do develop some level of conscious control over your experiences. However, you never really want to have full control of the experiences. You want to leave that to God because we find very early on in the out-of-body travel journeying that there is so much out there that we would never think up ourselves, that by surrendering rather to God or the universe, we are opening up so much more for us to explore and discover and learn about than if we try to control it ourselves. If we try to control it ourselves, we limit ourselves by quite a bit because of our own ignorance that we aren't even aware of. So it's
Yeah.
a very, I always advise people, don't try to control it because that's not going to serve you in the long run. You want to allow the universe to guide you. And that's what's going to serve your soul. And that's what's really going to take you further down this path of out of body travel.
I see. And, I've had a few of them in my life, and I've not been in control of any of them. It just happened. And as a matter of fact, I mean, it's so strange. It feels like a dream almost, like, and then coming back into the body, it just seemed like so sudden. Is that your experience? I mean, how does this thing happen? Do we know? I mean, what's what?
Well, what you're describing would be a partially conscious experience, perhaps. When you have a completely conscious experience, it is not dreamlike at all. It is more conscious than what you would experience in your physical waking body. There will not be any question that you have had an out-of-body experience. It's not something you're going to be like, well, was that an out-of-body experience or was it not? It's going to be, oh, wow, that was an out-of-body, so, but what you're talking about is partial conscious recall, possibly, of that experience. What happens with full conscious experiences is that people will go through oftentimes a very similar series of events, but it isn't exactly the same for every person. But most people will enter into what we call a vibrational state. This happens because you are detaching from the vibrational state, the vibrational level of your physical body, and attaching now to conscious awareness of your spiritual vibration, which is higher than your physical body. So it's going to feel like all of a sudden you're vibrating at really, really high speeds, which you are, because your physical and your spiritual are so different in terms of their frequency. And then in that vibrational state, you're probably going to hear voices and very loud sounds, like the sounds of jet engines, or sometimes just like a huge din, which is the sounds of the astral plane. The voices are the sounds of the thoughts of humanity that we call the mass retain. You hear the mass retain. This is literally thoughts of humanity. So you'll hear people thinking. And you may also, some people will experience this right away. Some people, it won't happen the first time. You may also then be connected to the unconditional love of God, where all of a sudden you're going to feel that profound and beautiful love that God has for all of his creation and for you as well. And then you go into this status of connecting to the knowledge, the wisdom of God. And in this state, everything that you could possibly think up all of a sudden makes sense. Everything just makes sense. You understand it through the eyes of God's wisdom and not the physical construct that we live through our eyes as physical human beings. And then at this point, people will often then either will themselves out of the body, roll out of the body, or get out of their body in one way, shape, or form. And then you're having your basic out-of-body experience, where maybe you're floating above your body in your room, and perhaps maybe going through a window or a door or a wall, and starting with floating around the astral plane. But the astral plane is literally like 0.0000001%, if not less, of what there is to actually explore and travel to in the out-of-body experience. And so this is literally just the tip of the iceberg, very, very, very tiny portion of what can and will happen when a person actually begins to practice out-of-body travel as a spiritual tool, because you will go well beyond the astral plane into multidimensional reality, which goes into an infinite number of heavens, an infinite number of purgatories, an infinite number of hells, and there's an infinite number of realms, even just, I would say, that are even along the lines of the heavens, but they're not necessarily like heaven, what people would regard as heaven. There are all sorts of beautiful places. Paramahamsa Yogananda would talk about the astral planets. Buddhists will talk about the Pure Land. All these places exist, and you can travel to them, and they're beautiful, beautiful places. And these are places where we go and we are taught and we seek knowledge and wisdom there.
So we're in these bodies, obviously, because at least it's my thought that for experiences that we couldn't have if we didn't have these bodies, and then we take these experiences, maybe with our souls or what have you. So how is an out of body and say death? Do they compare? Are they? Is it? Is that? I mean, it's like an out of body. Is that the same way something might happen, say at death, leaving the
There
body?
are similarities. There are similarities. Death is you'll find that near-death experiencers, their what they report and experience is not that different from what out-of-body travelers will report and experience. But the difference that you will see is that one person is at the point or the threshold of death, and one person usually is not. And so there will be different experiences that are attached to that status of that physical being. So being at the point of death carries with it certain types of important things, like, for instance, the life review. A lot of near-death experiencers will go through the life review. A lot of near-death experiencers will meet with family members who have already predeceased them. A lot of people who have out-of-body experiences will also do this, but it's not necessarily going to be something that they are doing on every single out-of-body travel, and generally not often on the first or the second try. It's going to be something that happens at different times, randomly, as it is helpful or needed in their spiritual journey. Then you have the issues of when a person is near death, they're making some very profound decisions about whether they are going to stay or go. Yeah. Whereas a person who is not at the point of death can be doing a whole lot of other things as well. There are some differences also, though, that I think are worth pointing out. When a person is actually, and so this is even different for a near-death experiencer versus someone who is in the afterlife and has deceased, in that there are certain parts of the experience that we are not allowed to cross into unless we have actually crossed over permanently, meaning we have physically died and it's a permanent, decision. It's not it's not like, oh, we're going back.
So there's more, there's more than one gate then.
Well, there is. Yeah, there's a lot of gateways on the other side. As to how that works, that's very mysterious, and I would hesitate to try to quantify that in words.
Well, what I mean is that, like you said, you can only get so far unless you're going to be completely deceased, and then you would be able to go into these other realms. So, in other words, there would be, there'd be, I guess, in a sense, there'd be, gates. Like you can't go past this point. You're not dead enough.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But there are, like, for instance, one of the things you learn, and a lot of near-death experiencers have talked about this. I've talked about it in my out-of-body experiences. I've also had a couple of near-death experiences. But when you see the light, there's a certain point that you cannot cross further unless you are making that decision to stay, or unless, that decision has been made for you to stay. So a lot of near-death experiencers will report that there's a certain point that they know they cannot go past until or unless they are staying. Now, when you talk about these different realms, though, there are so many realms that we are able to travel in the out-of-body travel state. So, I mean, literally, an infinite number of realms that we are able to travel. So what does that mean? I'm not certain, because that's a boundary that I have only been allowed to peer beyond, not really cross into, because I'm not, I haven't passed over yet,
Yeah.
But what it tells us is that there are some things that are reserved for death, for the afterlife experience that we do not get to know about or see before that time. But there are so many realms, because we talk about, well, there's places we can't go, and that's true. But we don't really know what that means. Does it mean that there is an energetic barrier? Does it mean that these are places? Because in the out-of-body travel state, I've literally been to so many thousands of realms that it seems that a lot has been opened up to us. But that we are allowed to travel in the out-of-body travel state is what I'm saying. But in that as well, we do go through trials and tribulations. We do go through rites of passage and initiations into mysteries. And so we do go through, periods where we are being led and guided, and then we have to pass through different gates of knowledge, and we go through these, tests. And so until we pass those, we can't necessarily go to the next level. So although those realms are open to us, they're not open to us the very moment we have our first out-of-body experience. We have to actually progress and continue progressing throughout our life and throughout our spiritual practice in order to ascend to these higher and higher places where we can experience more, learn more, witness more. And so there is that factor that applies both, both in the near-death and also in the out-of-body travel experience.
Is it in your experience or research? Have you come across? Is it common for somebody who has an out of body experience to see a deceased loved one?
It's very common. Okay. Very common. And not only is it's not just common for people who have out of body experiences, but it's becoming more and more common for people in a variety of ways. And in fact, there's a whole new area of scientific inquiry about, it's called ADC, after death communications, because it encompasses much more than that. So, people experience their deceased loved ones in dreams, in out-of-body travels, and they experience them in other ways too, where you have, things that happen around the house, whether it's electrical or lights or something gets moved around, all those kinds of things. And so, there's a lot of different ways that we hear about how people are being contacted by their deceased loved ones.
Okay. And so I guess the whole out of body, I'm still, I guess what kind of gets me is, why does it happen? Why do we get this little taste of what we really are? And then we're cut off. It's like no more. It's almost like being teased that you've got a nice brand new Christmas gift waiting for you under there, but don't peek. You can't know what it is until it's time, right? It's just, why do we get these little tastes and shivers? But it's like people who have passed on, it doesn't seem like they're ever able to really come back and tell us anything about the other side, only that they're there, right?
Well, I think what you're talking about there, if I'm hearing you correctly, is it's not that they can't tell us what it's like. It's that the way that it is so hard to quantify in words.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we run into with this phenomenon. So people do try to tell us what their experience was like, but unfortunately, we definitely know it's very hard to put into words,
Well, yeah, I can see where it would be. it's just there's so many things. I mean, lights in the sky. People have seen crafts in the sky. It's hard to explain what you're seeing when you've never seen something like that before. Well, what's your insights on ghost and that kind of thing? I mean, because I've had experiences with that too. Not a whole lot, but I have had some, and enough to tell me that there is something. There's something going on there. What's your thoughts on ghosts? Are they impressions that are stuck, or are they literally still here?
Well, I have quite a few books that I've written on the phenomena of ghosts and lost souls, because most ghosts you're dealing with are going to be lost souls, and lost souls, by their definition, are people who have passed on, who were who got kind of stuck because of something, either at the moment of death or something else that they have attached to. So you have people who become attached to something in their life, something in their lifetime that they are having a hard time to let go of, a particular moment, something that was particularly meaningful or very traumatic. It can be either one. A lot of lost souls, ironically talking about the trauma, a lot of lost souls come about from unexpected death, fast, sudden, unexpected. So car accidents, airplane accidents, natural disasters. So when people are, dying suddenly, that can bring about a situation of a lost soul. And so there's a whole lot of ways that we on the earth can deal with that. I have a book in the Mystic Knowledge series called Ghosts and Lost Souls. And I also have another one in the Mystic Knowledge series called Spiritual Warfare, Angels and Demons. And both of those books can go hand in hand, because sometimes it's hard to discern whether you're dealing with just like a ghost that needs help crossing over, or are you dealing with more of a principality or power of darkness when you're dealing with a serious haunting or something like that.
Yeah,
And it can be a number of things,
it can. And so then, it's like I had a visitation from my mom a long time ago after she had passed. And it was through an out of body experience all this happened. And I've had, heavy type religious folks who will say, oh no, anytime something like that happens, that's just a demon trying to pretend to be your dead loved one. I don't believe that, because this, nothing bad had happened, and I was told that, hey, there is a God. And so I don't know why a demon would tell me that, but, but there is this
Yeah.
dark element, though. I mean, there really is this dark element, and I have heard cases where they do pretend to be people they're not. So how do you decipher the two? I guess you got to be very careful, wouldn't you?
Yeah, there is a whole discernment process
Yeah.
that you go through it. And I talk about that in depth in my books, The Mysteries of the Redemption, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism, kind of takes you through this whole process. And yeah, you do. There's a lot of discernment involved. And a lot of what you have here, part of like what you just shared, you would discern that particular situation. And like what you're saying, I would agree with. If your grandmother comes to you and says she's telling you there is a God, then you're going to discern what was said to you and what the intention could be. Sometimes you will have things that are said to you that you can discern have untruths or deceptions in them, or things that don't feel right. There are also some basic discernment things that we do that have to do with asking the Spirit, are you here on behalf of Jesus Christ? Did Jesus Christ send you to me? Did God send you to me? And then, what happens is there are eternal laws that spirits have to abide by, even if they don't like it.
No.
So if they're, if they were not sent by God, if they're just kind of like, we have wandering spirits too, and they
Yeah.
can be doing anything from some type of purgatorial thing on earth to just kind of wandering around and kind of enjoying being a little bit of a trickster. And so there are so many different possibilities of, just as many possibilities that we have on earth in terms of what happens with the human personality. We see that with the human soul after death. And so this is why discernment is so necessary, because we want to know, first and foremost, did someone come or did a being come because God sent them? Did Jesus Christ send you? If he did not, they have to admit this. And usually what will happen is if he did not, they will lower their head and turn and walk away. Or if it's a demon, you might have something that involves a little bit of shrieking and shape-shifting and things like that, with a little more dramatic, But what this does is it allows you to know what you're dealing with. Now, if this were like your grandmother, she may not have been able to answer that question totally either, because she may not have been sent by God to tell you that. She may have done that of her own accord, and then she might have responded by saying, no, but I want you to know that there is a God. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what she was coming to tell you. There can be things that there are so many different variations of this. If she had come to you and told you something just totally out of character for her, or something that did not feel authentic, there will be messages we receive from deceased loved ones that might be different than what we'd expect, because they have died, they have seen new things that they may not have been aware of before, so they may have stuff to tell us that's different. But we want to trust those gut feelings, and we want to do to the discernment. There's a biblical discernment from the book of John, which is very simple. Do you believe that God sent his son, that he was born of the Virgin Mary, was incarnate in flesh? And there's this whole biblical discernment, which is a very effective means as well, because the demonic cannot stand to this. And if you're dealing with a lost soul or a wandering spirit, it'll just confuse them, but it'll let you know that you're dealing with a lost soul or a wandering spirit. When you're dealing with a lost soul or a wandering spirit, sometimes they may have nefarious intent, but a lot of times they're just confused and need prayer and need assistance in crossing over. And so there's a lot of guidance in my books on that as to how you can assist souls in those kinds of circumstances. But if there's a nefarious intent behind it, you got to deal with it differently. So it gets complicated just because there's so many different ways it can manifest.
And Marilynn, I find it very, very spooky to think that, it's already so much unknown when it comes to the dying process. People are afraid of the unknown. So when it comes to that time, they get scared. And then you get over there, and to think that you could be on the other side and have no direction as to what you're supposed to do, just kind of standing there like, uh-oh, now what? Like my ride's not here. It's got to be pretty spooky. I do, years ago, this is around 2000, about 20 years ago, we did an EVP in a cemetery, and I'll never forget getting to the end of this little cassette tape, and at the very end, there was some little girl who kept asking if she was dead. That really spooked me out. And we were in the child's section of the cemetery, not just by chance. That just happens to be where we entered. And that spooked me for 20 years, to think that there could be some little girl running around out there who doesn't know if she's dead or not, doesn't understand why nobody's answering her or paying attention to her. And I would think that there'd be some kind of organization in all this. I don't know what goes wrong. Is it people's? I don't know. Do people make things go wrong when they get over there because of their belief systems? Does that affect them when they get there?
Well, first of all, that exact point you're making is a very common reason for souls becoming lost, which is not knowing whether or not you're dead. And this happens with, adults as well. And this, one of the reasons why is because these often are unexpected sudden deaths. And so it happens so quickly that someone doesn't realize that it's happened. Now, what often happens in the case of a lost soul or a wandering spirit is that they sometimes, not always, sometimes they did not have a belief in anything before their death. And so there is a hesitancy, a pushing back against the spirit world because first of all, am I dead? And if I'm dead, why am I still consciously aware? Because I'm not supposed to exist. You know what I mean? And so we have a lot of souls who go through this period. This is why, like in the Catholic faith and in other traditions, there are very deep and meaningful prayers and devotions for the dead and for the souls in purgatory. It's because we're praying for those who need assistance at the moment of death and in their afterlife journeys. And a good part of my out-of-body travel work that I do is focused around helping souls through their afterlife journey, because our afterlife journeys can be very complex and they go on for a long period of time. So there's a lot of different stages that we will move through because we're going through these different purifications and moving through different areas of misunderstanding that we might have had in different areas of truth and different areas moving towards understanding more about God, understanding more about the spirit world. So yes, there is, that is one of the most common things you find with lost souls is they don't know that they're dead. So that is often one of the first things that you will focus on when you come across a soul who is deceased, is that you will let them know that yes, they are dead. This is important because, in our modern culture, there are a lot of programs now where people do go to places that are haunted.
Yeah.
And they find out things, and there are some people who are profoundly gifted that I've been very impressed with, who are able to find out, exactly who's haunting the place and from where and when. But the part that we are lacking in is understanding then what we must do, because we are to assist them. They are our brothers and sisters in Christ, and it is our duty to help our fellow brothers and sisters in need that are in the spirit, just as we would if they were lost in the physical world. So this is just another form of being, lost and needing assistance. And part of the way that we help, for those who are not aware of it, is prayer. Many people have taken up prayer practices where they pray for these souls. So if they don't have the mystical gifts or they don't have the sensitivity to touching into this sort of thing, they just start up a prayer practice. But like, for instance, with this girl, even now you can pray for this girl and reach out to this soul and ask for assistance to be sent to her and to be then sent to any souls like her who are in need of guidance. One of the things that happens when a soul doesn't realize that they have died and when a soul is having trouble with their vibration is that they have difficulty moving their vibration high enough so that they can actually see and respond to their guardian angels. One of the first things you do when you work with lost souls is that you're talking to them about, okay, yes, you did actually die in that explosion. So you weren't just thrown across the room, you actually did die. and then you go through some grief with them. You help them process through some of that, and then you're going to also talk to them about, okay, what are the next steps? Well, you're having difficulty because you are not raising your vibration. You're not being receptive to the assistance that has come for you, because you either don't believe in anything in the afterlife, and so you are pushing it away, or it's just that that's where your vibration is, and we need to help you to raise it by telling you that you have these guardian angels, that the moment that you are able to just open up your mind just a bit, your vibration is going to shift enough so that you will be able to see them and then hear them, and then they will be able to take you the rest of the way to the light. And that's what we do as like mediating. We're mediating between this vibration and the vibration of the next world when people are stuck in between. Now, there are, souls, lost souls, ghosts who choose this state as well. So there are, and that is the most especially you'll see in the longer term hauntings. You will see this with souls who are sometimes belligerent, not in the case of this young little girl you're talking about. This is a soul that you want to pray for. You want to offer prayer, good intention. You can speak to her even in your thoughts and say, I want you to know I didn't forget you, and if you still need help, I want to offer my prayers, my good works for you. And then whatever your own personal practices are. In the Catholic tradition, we will offer masses, we will pray the Holy Rosary, the Way of the Cross, the Chaplet of the Divine Mercy. We have novenas. So we have specific prayers. In other traditions, if you're Protestant, if you are Muslim, if you are Buddhist, there are all sorts of devotions that we can utilize and offer for these souls. And one of the things that often happens that, when I experience this and when others that I know experience this, so we would come across a soul like this and it'd be like, okay, well, I need to pray for this young girl, but I also want to now offer a general prayer for all young children who may be stuck or trapped for whatever reason, who need prayer. And so then you begin offering whatever prayer you are comfortable with in your own way. And for a lot of us, even if you don't have a tradition, prayer can be as simple as just talking to God. You can be walking down the street and having a conversation with God and saying, God, I want to talk to you about this girl. I'm really concerned. This is a child, and she doesn't know whether or not she's dead. I don't know if she's still in trouble or if help was sent and she was able to receive it. But I would like to make sure that she's okay. And now that I'm aware that there might be others like her, I want to pray. I want to offer whatever I can of my energy, of my good intentions, of my good thoughts, my own prayers, my own good deeds, whatever I can do. And, sometimes even people will go to cemeteries and pray for the souls in the cemeteries. You can do this too. You can do this in so many different ways, depending on what your own personal comfort zone is and what your own faith practice is, even if it's not a particular religion, where you communicate, talk, have a conversation, and all of a sudden you will feel this connection. It's like instant, where all of a sudden this spirit world and you are now, you're connecting that vibration, which is what is necessary for those souls, bringing the vibration of that other side to the vibration of us here in the physical, and then connecting it so that those who are making this crossing over and having difficulty with it, then have this ability now to bring those two vibrations together, and then they will receive that help, which is right there waiting for them.
I get
So,
that. But, I'll tell you, Marilyn, it still kind of gets me. You know, everyone dies. It's been a process that's been happening since the beginning, right? No one's getting off this world with their body. I always say, unless you're an astronaut, you might do it for a little while, but you know,
yeah.
but nobody's getting out of here with their bodies. And you would think that. You know, I don't know. With a little girl like that, I'm thinking, well, where is the relatives? I mean, are they at a party? Why haven't they come to get her? You would think that it'd be an automatic process, like the soul would automatically know where to go, and it'd be just kind of like I don't know, like putting it in cruise control, if you will. It's kind of if anyone could get confused, I'm the guy. I'm telling you, I'm going to get over there, and I'm not going to know what to do. That
Well,
worries
let me
me.
give you a real simple procedure. If you or anyone listening is having any difficulty, and this is coming not only from my own experiences with out of body travel, but this is reading thousands of accounts of near-death experiencers who have gone to hell, ironically. And every single account, what happened? They got on their knees, they prayed to God for assistance, and what happened? A split second later, God or Jesus Christ arrived and they received help. So this is the real message that we all need to remember. Anytime that we find ourselves in trouble, we immediately just fall on our knees, and we pray. We ask God for the assistance we need. Remember, ask and you will receive.
Oh, I
and
do.
we have seen that this happens with, thousands and thousands of near-death experiencers where, they're having a negative near-death experience, and they do, a lot of them are atheists. A lot of them are, really negative about God, but they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try it. And so they try it. They fall on their knees and they pray to God and say, if you exist, please help me. And he does. So we all need to remember that, because it shows us two things. One, God acts instantly. And two, God acts with absolute mercy all the time, because I have never heard of an instance. I've never heard of an instance, and I have studied this, of people who have had these negative experiences. The minute they ask for help, God's there. We have to remember, ask. Keep asking.
Well, I wish, and I get what you're saying, but I wish that these kind of things worked when they says, well, you're going to have heart surgery, or you're going to need chemo. It'd be nice if you, and some people have prayed, and it has worked, actually. So, I mean, I seen a video. I seen a video where I was in another country, I forget where. Listeners will probably remember this immediately. But there was a video. These folks got around somebody who was sick and dying of cancer, and they just prayed and prayed and prayed. And this was in the hospital, and this person got healed. I mean, this was I think it was even on the mainstream media at the time. They even talked about it. I guess I can't say that, because it does work. It just doesn't work all the time, I guess. But then what does, right? I mean, if you're meant to go, you're meant to go. Right?
Well, we always have to remember that even Lazarus eventually died, and so we know that we are mortal beings, and we will all leave this planet at some point. Yeah. But yes, it does work, and you'd be surprised how many people do receive healing, and sometimes people are not completely cured, but they may receive spiritual healing, or they receive partial healing. Some people may not be completely healed, but they're given a grace where they are given significant healing so that they can do much better than they would have had they not received it. In my case, I had cardiomyopathy and heart failure. I was diagnosed with it in 2001. Was supposed to get a heart transplant. Ooh. Had pretty bad odds of surviving it for 5 years. Should have been gone a long time ago, and here I am. But long story short, in 2003, had a near-death experience, saw Christ, told me he was going to help me, and he did. And here I
bless.
am. So, you know.
That's fantastic. That is, you know, I
Yes,
know
so,
somebody
but I have
else.
seen this with many people, not just myself, many people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've also seen many good people who prayed, who, you know, God wanted to, it was time for them to come and see him because he missed them because they were that cool. But, you know,
Hey, if that's the only reason God's calling my numbers because he thinks I'm cool, then I'm all for it. I guess it's better than going and knowing that you're going to be disciplined for a life of horrible things. And you know, and I'm one who believes that I've always thought when you do go to the other side, rather than some man with a beard, and I'm just kind of being graphical here, but some man with a beard and a check pencil and pen checking your naughty and nices. I see it more like you're going to be judging yourself. You're going to have this life review, and you know your pure spirit is going to now judge what you've done with this opportunity you had on this planet or whatever you might call it. Opportunity, training camp, I don't know what it is, but we're here. So I kind of think that that we'll be judging ourselves for some reason. And, you know, maybe every time we see something we didn't like and we wish we didn't do, maybe that's a check mark against us. I don't know.
well, I know that in my own experience with the life reviews and the near-death experiences, what is the most powerful or was the most powerful for me, there are experiences that you have during it where you see things you have done through the eyes of God, which is really difficult and hard. But there is also when you experience things that you did that hurt other people that you did not realize how it felt to them. And so you feel that. You feel how it felt to them. That to me was the hardest part. But it was also the most instructive part because it forces us to generate a great deal more sensitivity about what it is we're saying, what it is we're doing, and trying to, you know, be more astute about how easy it is to hurt another human being, even sometimes very unintentionally, just because of our carelessness. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Believe me, we've all done it, whether, like you say, whether we realize it or not. But Marilyn, hang out with me for a few minutes. I want to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk some more. If anybody's got questions or comments, you're welcome to call in. The number's 803-317-2521. Just wait until we get back from the break and make sure you mute yourself. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vara, and my guest is Marilynn Hughes. Her website, www.outofbodytravel.org. We'll be right back, folks. Don't go away.
Is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Did you know WCET Radio offers you free radio archives? Well, now you do. Free radio archives. That's right, free. What that means is you get all the current year's archives absolutely free. And if you wish to go deeper into the archives, such as 2019, 2018, 2017, well, you get the picture. Then you would subscribe either monthly or yearly, and by doing so, you assure that this show and this station remains on air and uncensored. So enjoy your free radio archives and dive in even deeper while helping WCET Radio bring to you the best of talk radio. WCETradio.com, your talk station. What if I told you that you could order quality jewelry that is lead and nickel free for just $5? Crazy, right? Not so much. Paparazzi Jewelry is quality jewelry, and the best part is when you buy from Crystal, she donates a portion to help fight epilepsy. So upgrade your look with quality jewelry, Paparazzi Jewelry. You can click on the banner chat and listen page on the station that covers everything. WCET Radio. Pet Connect Plus offers a connection to your pet, living or past, with the use of tarot. Ruby, the owner and intuitive reader for Pet Connect Plus, will make a connection to your pet for guidance on specific questions and general past, present, and future readings of your pet. A connection with an owner and a pet together will run $55 for 50 minutes, or a connection with one pet alone is $35 for 30 minutes. What a deal. Pet Connect Plus can be found at petconnectplus.com and on Facebook at Pet Connect Plus. Connect with Pet Connect Plus so we can make a connection with your beloved pet to provide them with a fulfilling and rewarding relationship with you. Get connected today. PetConnectPlus.com.
Late Nighters and WCET radio listeners around the world, listen up. The shop is here, and you can order WCET radio and your favorite shows swag right now and show your friends and your neighbors you're awake by wearing one of our many shirts, including our Stop the Censorship shirt. That one is a hot seller, so get yours while supplies last. We have coffee mugs, clocks so you never miss your favorite shows, books, mouse pads, and more coming soon. Just go to WCETradio.com and click the shop link. That's WCETradio.com and get to shopping.
You're listening to WCET, America's talk station.
Become a WCET Late Nighter today. What is a late nighter, you ask? A late nighter is a loyal listener who wants access to the WCET radio shows on demand and wants to contribute to the station's growth with an annual or monthly listener contribution. Late nighters also get priority access to host call-in shows, special WCET swag, and late nighter only events on the network. Become an annual late nighter by August 31st and get a free WCET Stop the Censorship t-shirt sent directly to you all over the world. Just click one of Become a Late Nighter buttons all over WCETradio.com to subscribe. Without you, there is no us.
It's late, and we're cruising through the night with you from the East Coast of the United States from an undisclosed location. You're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vara. To call in to tonight's show, just dial 803-317-2521. Or get your questions to Michael through our WCET Skype located on our website at WCETradio.com. The call to listen line is 631-359-9399. Now, here is Michael Vara.
Starting to get a little older. But the older you get, the more, you're faced with death so much more. just people around you who are getting old and are passing away and are having health problems, and, and there's just so much. And, so I've got a million questions all the time. And that's why I love having guests like tonight's guest on, because they've had experiences and we could, kind of pick their brain a bit and, and try to get as close to the answers as we possibly can. The problem is I think that it's a little different for everybody. I think it's a little, so she could give us her experiences, but for me, it's probably going to be a little different. For you, it's probably going to be a little different. But even though the road might be made out of dirt or gravel or even grass or something like that, I think they all lead to the same place, or do they? So Marilynn, do all roads lead to the same place? Or are we destined to go to these different places? I've heard we'll have our own planets, or there's all these different dimensions, and we could go to any different one we want, or possibly we come back here.
Well, I think all of the above are possibilities and probabilities. I mean, we have, just as we have in our own world, we have the ability to live on one continent or another continent.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things also exist for us in the next life. And so there are different options that we will have, and they will be based upon, what is needed the most for our soul. And so we make decisions in conjunction with, the instruction that we receive from the inflowing from God or the universal good, whatever you want to call it, but it comes within us and helps us to formulate where would it be best for us to go next to continue this soul journey that we're on. And so it can change. Yes, in my experience, yes, we do have the option of reincarnation, but reincarnation here is only one of many places that we can incarnate. This isn't the only world. So we can be talking about incarnating in other worlds, but there are also other types of existences that we can experience in a more fifth dimensional and above type of reality. And a lot of that will be determined by the progress that we've made spiritually in this life here on Earth. And so, many people will put off, the things of the spirit, and not think that it's important because we're here in the physical. But the reality is it both goes hand in hand. We are here to experience this physical world, but we are also here to cultivate the spiritual within that physical world. And the more that we cultivate here, the more options, the more things that become available to us as we progress spiritually from this life into the next, and then well beyond that.
I see. Okay. Well, we've got a call, and this is Jessica, and she's always got some really good questions. So, Jessica, welcome aboard.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Well, hello. I do have some questions.
Okay.
Hi, Jessica.
Hello. And first I want to say to Michael, I'm proud of you for saying Kenosha right tonight. I have to say I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. I was thinking about you when I said it. I said, if I get this wrong, she's going to let me know tonight. So.
Okay. So I have a question. Now, you said that most out-of-body experiences is usually, I want to say, natural. But don't we do that every night when we dream?
We do, but when you're talking about a fully conscious experience, it's going to be a very different experience of the event.
Okay. So I think this is what I probably have done many times. I can remember getting weirdly walking around as a child in my parents' house, but I would see a cord, like a silver cord or a gold cord, and then I would just go right back into my body. I would weirdly stand like where my bed is and see my body and see me sleeping. Now, I want to say when I was a teenager and in my 20s, I wouldn't do that. I kind of lost that. And recently, I'm like in my 30s, I'm starting to do that again. But this time, I'm hearing things. Like I heard a deep voice saying, Jessica, please go back to your room. Because I was actually leaving my apartment. And I